The Leominster City Council meeting is funded in part by DeCarolis Insurance Agency at www.decarolisinsuranceagency.com and by Avidia Bank at www.avidiabank.com.
Councilor Angelini, it is 6:40. You can start the Legal Affairs public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. My name is Peter Angelini, Chairman of the Legal Affairs Committee, and I am joined this evening by the second member of Legal Affairs, Ward 1 Councilor Robert Tossi. And I see that my third member, Pauline Cormier, may be delayed in transit. This public hearing is on petition 8-25. School committee respectfully requests, with a vote of 8-0, that the Leominster City Council consider increasing their yearly compensation to align with other school committees in Massachusetts. The committee currently receives a yearly stipend of $2,000 and would request that the amount be increased to $10,000 to take effect after the next election cycle and to follow the consumer index for future increases. The compensation will be paid out of the school department budget. Are there any representatives of the petitioners here this evening that would like to speak? They have a prepared statement or anything you'd like to? Good evening, Councilor. All right. Then I'm going to go to the public first, Mr. President, if that's okay with you. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on favor of or in opposition to petition 825? Please state your name and address for the record. That's fine.
Suzanne Kohler, 541 Miriam Avenue. I would like to request, and I know I reached out to several of you, I believe that 400% increase is fiscally irresponsible. Having served on the committee for 28 years, of which 12 of it was unpaid, I believe in public service. And I don't have a problem with some kind of an increase, but this is outrageous. And I did reach out to some of my other former school committee members. One of them is upstairs right now doing public service with the licensing commission. She's going to try and come down if she can to speak, but again, I just think, and I think it's interesting that this is the first budget cycle, at least since I've been gone, that the money is drawing up for the school budget. And many of the current school committee members have never sat on the committee when we've gone through such difficult fiscal times, you know, supply shortage, teacher shortage. So again, I just think 400% is fiscally irresponsible, but, you know, I certainly, you know, engage in considering a smaller amount. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cole. Is there anyone else in attendance this evening who would like to speak in favor of or in opposition to petition 8-25? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go to members of Legal Affairs. Councilor Tossi?
Yes. Is there any negotiation here, or is this just 10,000 or nothing?
We're acting on the petition before us, Councilor.
10,000, okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilor Cormier? No questions. Members of the council. Councilor Shalfo Zephyr?
Yep. Thank you very much. At our last meeting, we did ask for, we've referred this petition to the mayor, the superintendent, and the school business manager. Have we gotten any referrals back?
No,
Nothing.
ma'am.
Counselor Angelini, I think if you check, just very recently, I think the mayor did send an email to you.
Oh.
I don't know if you have access to your city email. I can read it if you want.
Please, yeah, please.
This was late this afternoon from the mayor, Dean Mazzarella. Good afternoon. It was addressed to the Legal Affairs Chair. Petition 825 was referred to me. Any increase would come from the school budget, not the city budget. That was his response.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Mr. President.
No problem.
So apparently that's all we have, Counselor.
Which is not very helpful.
Agreed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Counselor Frida.
Mr. Chairman, I have an email that was sent to me from Donna Danino, who was on the school committee prior, and she is out of town. Do you want me to read it now? Do you want me to read it?
Oh, please,
Right
go
now?
ahead.
Chairman Bedanza and members of the Leominster City Council. Leominster is a city that values tradition and service to this community. The Leominster School Committee, as a body, has a long tradition of service to the children of Leominster, and up until recently served without monetary compensation. Candidates from all walks of life sought a seat on this committee for various reasons: interest in special education, sports, music, art, academic rigor, all come to mind. There was never a financial incentive, nor should there ever be. The 12 years I served, 2003 to 2015, 9 as co-chair, were busy. We hired 3 superintendents, completed several building projects, and improved many student services and academic programs, all within the constraints of minimum net school spending. We received recognition as All-State School Committee from Mass Association of School Committees in 2012 for our high level of services and academic programs, all within the constraints of I hate emails like this. I'm a paper person. All School Committee from Mass Association of School Committee in 2012 for a high level of governance. In 2013, the committee submitted a request to the City Council for a stipend of $1,000 per year. It was thought that the money could go towards childcare during meetings or some other small expenses that members incur. The City Council increased this amount to $2,000. This amount of $16,000 a year, the mayor was excluded per year, taken out of the school budget and paid to the members. Now, there's a request before you for a 400% increase to $10,000 per year. That would be an $80,000 expense to the budget, a teacher's salary equivalent. I urge you to consider a much lower amount, perhaps a $1,000 increase or no increase at all. The work of a school committee member is very important and valued, in part, I believe, because it is a service to the community with little or no monetary consideration. I do not believe that providing a $10,000 salary will in any way improve the quality of candidates for school committee. In fact, I think the opposite may be true. Thank you for your consideration of my views and making a decision on this matter. Donna Danino, 161 Old Tavern Road.
Thank you,
I'll
Counselor.
forward that to you or to the clerk.
Sure, both, if you don't mind. We'll make it part of the record. Thank you, Counselor Frida.
Counselor Frida, are you finished? Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I also served on the school committee. It was pre-ed reform back in the 80s, and I think the makeup of a school committee is generally that for consideration of, as Mrs. Danino mentioned, the academic rigor, the programs, the academic consideration for kids. I think to be compared to the city council is completely wrong. It's not the same thing. It's not the same type of a body. It has one focus, and it's associated with the Mass Association of School Committees. I do not support a $10,000 increase. I think that's a lot. I wouldn't be opposed to increasing it some, but I think that's a discussion to be had.
All right, thank you, Counselor. Are there any other counselors that would like to comment, weigh in? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go, oh, it doesn't appear that we have any new folks in the audience. But I'm going to ask one more time, if there's anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition to petition 8-25. For the second time, is there anyone in attendance that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition to petition 8-25? And for the third and final time, is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to speak either in favor of or in opposition to petition 8-25? And seeing none, Mr. President, I will declare this public hearing closed.
Very well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our timing is pretty good, but it's not quite yet 6:50. Just a matter of seconds. Councilor Robbins, you can start your continued public hearing. It is 6:50 now.
Wonderful. This is a continued public hearing on petition 2-25. Massachusetts Electric Company, doing business as National Grid, requests permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way. Lancaster Street, National Grid to install one solely owned pole on Lancaster Street, beginning at a point approximately 190 feet southeast of the center line of the intersection of Central Street and Lancaster Street. National Grid will be installing new pole 2-84 and guy to replace tree guy since the tree is being removed, Leominster, Mass. So we opened the public hearing for this on the 12th. We heard testimony from a constituent that we requested some further information on, and we received an email back that I'll read into the record now about the tree that is in question here. The email was sent on August 28th and says, "Hi Maribel, in 2019 through 2020, the DPW applied for and received a Massachusetts DCR Urban and Community Forestry Challenge grant. The grant was used to hire Planet It Geo to perform a citywide tree inventory, the survey. The survey was done in 2022. The survey data was provided in a shapefile format. The data is compatible with the city's GIS. I've attached a sample map of the data. The links to the map are included, and this letter should be on file in the city clerk's office. The survey indicated co-dominant stems, crown, dieback, hardscape damage, included bark. This summer, the DPW made sidewalk improvements along Lancaster Street. The intent of the improvements are to provide safe passage for all pedestrians. This tree had heaved the adjacent sidewalk, hardscape damage. This, combined with there not being enough width between the tree and the back of the sidewalk for ADA compliance, led the DPW to ask National Grid to remove the tree and replace it with a pole. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me at the office, John R. Rosenberry, Leominster Department of Public Works." So that's where a lot of the questions stem from last time. I will start with members of the committee. Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr, do you have any questions regarding the petition?
I don't necessarily have any questions. The information hasn't changed, at all. The tree is not dying. It has a couple of problems that, we know that the sidewalk is lifted in some spots, roots, this happens all over the place. I've been walking at Doyle Field recently, and I can tell you, all along the side where the trees are lined up next to the football field, the bowl, numerous trees along that stretch. There's a lot of hardscape that has been lifted, and I would argue provides much more of a public safety hazard for people actually in wheelchairs that use that area, because when I've been walking, I've seen people using that. So I understand it's a public safety problem. I think it can be addressed without taking the tree down. I'd like to see the DPW, for example, work with the homeowner and widen the sidewalk to accommodate anybody in a wheelchair or with any other kind of assistive equipment. So I understand the problem, I understand the challenges, I completely agree it's a public safety issue that needs to be addressed. I just don't think taking the tree down is the way to do it. I'd like to see the DPW come up with a creative way to solve that problem.
Thank you. Councilor Frida, do you have anything?
No, I think whatever we can do to look at the tree. I mean, it is a pretty tree. It does, it's aesthetically pleasing when you come in from Lancaster Street, coming into town. I think it's gonna be determined whether it's safe to leave it there or not. I mean, I think I'd like to see it saved, but, I mean, that's to be determined, I guess.
Other members of the council, questions or comments? Councilor Angelini?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I dug into this a little bit this week. The company Planet Geo has been around since 2012, and of course they invented a proprietary software that's compatible with our GIS database. And so they're identifying trees that are in the roadway easement or in the power line easements. Excuse me. And unfortunately, the hard facts are that the tree is not compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And if this council votes no on the tree removal, with the way it's worded here, National Grid will be paying for the removal of the tree. It's my understanding that DPW intends to take this tree down one way or another. So if the council were to vote no on this, the DPW is going to take the tree down at the taxpayer's expense. If you looked at the fiscal year 2025 budget, the forestry department has a line item for contract services. And this explicitly is for tree work because the city's forestry folks aren't licensed to work in the wire easements. So they subcontract all the tree cutting out. And that budget, by the way, was cut $5,000. It was fiscal year 2023 and 2024, it was $50,000. In the 2025 fiscal year budget, it's $45,000. And of course, because of the location, you'll need a police detail, which will increase the cost of the removal. So we're looking probably $2,000 or $3,000 for the removal of that tree if the DPW takes it out. I admire trees. I think that they look wonderful along the side of the road. This one's been identified again for a couple reasons by the professionals at Planet Geo for the underlying issues that the tree has, as well as the ADA issue. I understand that the area that, the concrete sidewalk that's missing has been replaced with tar. Is anticipated to start buckling once the roots start growing through it, as they did to the former piece of concrete that was there. So again, we don't have the authority to tell the DPW they can't take the tree down. We do have the authority, obviously, to deny this National Grid petition, but that's just going to shift the burden of the tree removal to the taxpayer, as opposed to National Grid taking the tree down and paying for it. I wish we could save the tree too, I truly do. But anyway, that's what I have to offer.
Thank you, Councilor
You're
Angelini.
welcome.
I will add, based on my interpretation of the petition, it does sound like the city is the one removing the tree, since National Grid is submitting the petition to move the guy wire off the tree, but that's just my interpretation of it.
Yeah.
So I believe that the city is going to be at the expense for this tree either way if it comes down. But any other comments?
Yep.
Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr?
The DPW, if the tree has to come down for whatever reasons, because they need to, fix the sidewalk, make it ADA compliant, I understand that completely. However, instead of taking it down, replacing it with a telephone pole, maybe the city could plant another tree, right? There's plenty of money all over the city for new trees, new park projects, all kinds of beautiful things being done throughout the city, except in this particular situation, which I think would benefit, it's when you first come into the city, it's right at that juncture of Central Street and Lancaster Street. Why doesn't somebody, either the DPW or some other, the forestry department come up with a better alternative? There has been significant conversation and discussion about the tree, how it looks nice, it provides shade for the homes that are there. So if the tree, if people don't want the tree to be gone, but it needs to go, then come up with an alternative, put another tree there. And then, National Grid can do their thing and put a guy wire to that to make it look nice. There's plenty of beautification throughout the city, which I think is a great thing and a wonderful thing. But I think taking that tree down on the entrance to the city of Leominster, the downtown, and replacing it with another telephone pole is not anything that I'm going to support. And I understand that we do need to be ADA compliant, and that's a priority, but I think it can be done in a way that serves the people who live on that stretch of Lancaster Street, who are also taxpayers. I think it serves them better.
Any other comment? Councilor Arndinger?
Thank you. At our last meeting, the Ward 3 councilor talked about 2 trees at the corner of Franklin and Union Street. And when one of those trees fell, it fell across the road. Now, there's a much bigger tree and obviously a bigger problem. But the trees did look nice from the outside, but the entire core of the tree was rotted. And as I read the report, it seemed to be indicating that this tree is diseased, and it may go along for another couple of years, it may not. And the way the tree is leaning, if it falls, it's falling across 117 Lancaster Street. And the unfortunate thing is, if we've seen it on the news where trees fall onto people's cars and do a significant damage. So I wouldn't agree or disagree with planting a new tree or something to keep the beautification there. But if this tree is diseased before it falls down and harms somebody, it probably should be removed.
Mr. Chairman, it's 7 o'clock, so we're going to start the meeting, and then I'll ask for a motion to recess. Join me in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now take the roll of the councilors in attendance, starting with Councilor David Cormier.
Present.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Present.
Councilor Arndinger.
Present.
Councilor Angelini.
Present.
Councilor Tossi.
Present.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Present.
Councilor Robbins.
Present.
Councilor Frida.
Present.
Now be recorded as present. All 9 councilors are in attendance. Does the chairwoman of records have a report?
Mr. President, I apologize, I did not have the opportunity to review the records from the last meeting. I just ask that they get put over to the next meeting, please.
That'd be fine. So we'll delay the acceptance of those records until our next meeting. At this point, I'd entertain a motion to go into recess. Councilor David Cormier, Councilor Arndinger, second. All those in favor, please recognize usual manner. We are in recess, and Councilor Robbins, you can continue with your hearing.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilor Arndinger, were you all set?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Any other comments from members of the council? Councilor Cormier.
Councilor Robbins, I'm sorry, I came in a little bit late today. So just to clarify, the DPW already has this tree on their list of trees that have to come down.
That's correct.
Okay.
And
So-
based on the tree study that we got in the email from John Rosenberry, it does reference the fact that the tree previously had pulled up the sidewalk. Okay. Obviously, when it was redone, the pavement was put in, so it hasn't happened yet. So that's where it stands now.
Okay, so the process was just basically sped up because now National Grid needs to move their utilities.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify, thank you.
Any other members of the council? I'll go to the members of the public. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak in favor of or against this petition?
Yes, sir.
Could step up to the microphone and just state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir.
My name is Ted Fiffey, and I am the owner of 17 Lancaster Street. And I'm not sure how the information on this has gotten to where it is, but I have some information that I'd like to present to the council for its review, if I may. What I've got basically are 2 pages that have photos of the conditions and the statute that has jurisdiction over this matter is actually the Architectural Access Board, okay? And that is, the top line of the first page addresses the statute that has jurisdiction over handicap access, okay? And the way that statute reads, it's consistent with the ADA, that wheelchairs have a 3-foot space for access. Now, what I've done on the first page is I've actually stretched a tape measure, and I've actually taken a photo of the entire tape, and what it shows basically is that with the tape measure in that place, the surface of the curb is irregular. So what's shown in the images that I've presented basically is that the tape measure is inside the face of the irregular curb, and if you look at the photo, the end of the tape measure is well within the disturbed surface of the temporary bituminous pavement that's there. The actual distance is 39 inches where 36 inches is required. So with regard to this being an ADA issue or for wheelchair access, it is not. It is not, and I double-checked to make sure that the section of the statute that I'm referencing is actually the valid one, and it is. With regards to the health of the tree, I am not an arborist or a forester, but when you inspect the canopy of the tree, there are absolutely no limbs at all that even appear marginally compromised at all. The counselor that made the comment about trees, actually, I've actually worked in construction, and I'm working in Boston on a national park site right now. And we took one of those trees down that looks basically healthy from the outside, and when it was cut down, you could see that the hollow on the inside. But that was looked at by an arborist, and it was determined to be in a sickened state. And now, I'm not an arborist, but I would be willing, if the council would find it helpful, if it would be helpful, I would certainly pay the cost for an arborist to inspect the tree and then make a report to the council on its overall health. Because what we're talking about doing here is taking down a beautiful, thriving tree that's approximately 30 inches or more in diameter at its base. The new sidewalk has actually raised the elevation of the top of the sidewalk, so there is no longer any disfigured surfaces, so that there's no trip hazard. And for it to remain the way that it is, I think would be in the best interest of the city and obviously of the neighborhood. Because what we're talking about doing is taking out a beautiful, healthy tree and putting in a telephone pole. And even if we tried, and this is not a petition that's driven by National Grid, and that's why I asked the council to consider perhaps leaving it, okay? National Grid has a guy wire on the tree, okay? So that makes the responsibility for the removal of the tree to be National Grid's, okay? So that's basically the information. I mean, I grew up there, and I wanted to include a picture of it along with what I gave to the council, and I really request that you consider, getting I don't mind retaining the services of an arborist to look at it and giving you a one-page quick synopsis on the overall health of the tree. Someone that's trained in those matters that can take a look at it and give us, a much more informed perspective of what its status is. And I want to thank the city council. I know that you folks are all trying to do what's best for the community, but, and I thank you basically for the opportunity to speak to you about it.
Thank you, Mr. Flippy. Appreciate it.
If there's anything as the owner that I am able to do to retain the tree in terms of providing some space for an easement, I am willing to do that. I think it's what's best. It's what's in the best interest of the neighborhood in the city. Thank you.
Thank you again. For a second time, is there anybody any member of the public that would like to speak in favor of or against this petition? And for a third and final time, is there any member of the public that would like to speak in favor of or against this petition? Seeing none, any other comments from members of the council? Seeing the information from the constituent who lives abutting this tree, I think I'd like to keep the public hearing open again. Allow Mr. Fiffy to work with an arborist if he so chooses, and we can move forward at the next meeting on this.
Okay, so, Mr. Chairman, when this comes up, we'll vote on your I'll ask you to check with your members of your committee, and
Yep.
we'll vote on a new hearing date and further time at that
Great.
point.
Thank you,
Okay?
Mr. President. All set to start on the next one?
Yes, please.
This is a continued public hearing on petition 3-25, Massachusetts Electric Company doing business as National Grid, requests permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way. Pleasant Street, National Grid to install one solely owned pole on Pleasant Street beginning at a point approximately 66 feet south of the center line of the intersection of Pleasant Street and Pleasant Place. National Grid will be installing quadruplex to service 800A at 71 Pleasant Street, installing stub pole 8-84 to support the new quadruplex wire, Leominster, Mass. Again, this is a continued public hearing from August 12th. At that meeting, the representative from National Grid, I read into the record the requests from the DPW, which I will just highlight again, which were to, one, the back of the sidewalk on the edge of the right-of-way of Pleasant Street, the guy wire should be placed on city property. 2, the guy wire should be placed with enough clearance to allow a sidewalk tractor to pass. At that time, the representative from National Grid identified some issues with those conditions, and we asked them to come back, and I believe we have a representative from National Grid here. If you come up to the microphone, introduce yourself.
Good evening, Council. My name is Lenny Martinez. I'm the representative for tonight from National Grid.
So my question, Lenny, is as of the last meeting, the representative that was here identified some issues with those conditions. Have you guys worked with the DPW to address those, come to a different agreement? When I talked to the DPW earlier, it seemed like that was not the case.
From my understanding, from the designer who you originally saw the first time, he spoke with Overhead,
Okay.
and they're okay with putting everything in the right of way,
Okay.
that they can butt up right to the property line and still keep everything in the right of way and still get all the clearances and everything that we need.
Great. Members of the committee, Councilor Shalfo-Zephyr, questions?
Yep. Mr. Martinez, do you have a drawing of that or a redesign?
A crude drawing with notes, yes.
Okay.
So the, right there on 68, the circle represents the pole and the arrow represents the anchor, and it's all gonna be in the right of, it's all gonna be put in the right of way with a sidewalk fixture, if I'm not mistaken. So that you have everybody can walk underneath it without, the hard angle.
What's that, Councilor?
Yep.
Any questions?
No.
Councilor Farida?
Good.
Any other members of the council?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing none, I'll go to members of the public. Any members of the public like to speak in favor of or against this petition? Second time, anybody like to speak in favor of or against this petition? And for a third and final time, any members like to speak in favor of or against this petition? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Councilor Angelini, would you mind grabbing the sign-up sheet for the public forum and passing it down? Thank you. The public forum is an opportunity for any member of the audience to speak on a matter specifically listed on the council agenda. Speakers will be asked to come to the microphone and state their formal name and address, along with identifying the specific item or items they wish to address. Each speaker is respectfully asked to keep their comments within a 2-minute time frame. The council will not be responding or answering any questions. However, at the discretion of the council president, clarification may be given. Thank you, Councilor Angelini. We have nobody signed up this evening for the public forum, but nonetheless, is there any member of the public that wishes to address the city council on an agenda item this evening? Second time, is there any member of the public that wishes to address the city council on an agenda item this evening? And a third and final time, is there any member of the public that wishes to address the city council on an agenda item this evening? Seeing none, I'll declare the public forum closed. We are back in session. We have no communications from the mayor, no petitions first time on the agenda. And we are on to matters before the city council, starting with the financial report. Is the chairman ready to report?
Yes, Mr. President, we began the fiscal year on July 1, 2024. The balance in the capital stabilization fund is $2,193,191.62. The opioid stabilization fund began with a balance of $518,703.20. We have added an appropriation, which was a transfer in from proceeds from the state of $19,662.08, and that gives us a balance of $538,365.28. And the City of Leominster Stabilization Fund began with a balance of $22,845,823.27. We have earned $102,275.69. And we have one appropriation that was approved by the City Council that came out so far of $4,550.45. And that leaves us with a balance of $22,943,548.51, and that is the financial report.
Any questions? Seeing none, we have no matters before the Finance Committee this evening, and we'll move on to Legal Affairs. Is the chairman ready to report?
I am indeed, Mr. President. Thank you. Petition 8-25, School Committee respectfully request with a vote of 8-0 that the Leominster City Council consider increasing the yearly compensation to align with the other school committees in Massachusetts. The committee currently receives a yearly stipend of $2,000 and would request that amount be increased to $10,000 to take effect after the next election cycle and to follow the consumer index for future increases. The compensation will be paid out of the school department budget. Mr. President, we had a public hearing earlier this evening. We certainly, I think we're all familiar with this issue. We had a number of members of the school committee that spoke on this a while back when the petition was withdrawn, but the essence of the petition hadn't changed. You know, when I look at this and I think the most recent budget that this council passed, the 25 fiscal year budget, the mayor had asked for and received 4% budget cuts from all department heads. And in light of that, it's difficult for me to support a 400% increase for anyone. So it would be my recommendation to deny 825, and I would ask you to check with members of my committee.
Councilor Tossi
I agree.
and Councilor Pauline Cormier.
I would just like to say that I have talked to members from the school committee, and I understand what they're asking for and why they're asking for it. I will not agree to a $10,000, 400% raise. I won't agree to that. But I do understand, and after talking to them, they do put in a significant amount of time. It does take some time away from their families. And all the members that I know that are on the school committee, they attend so many activities for the schools, whether it's the sports, the band, everything else. And a lot of those come with donations, and they bring their families and the spaghetti suppers and the fundraisers and those things. So I understand it. I feel for them. I would be more likely to consider something less than a 400% increase. So for that reason, the 400% increase I cannot support, but I would just put this out there that I would consider something less than that. But otherwise, I agree with the chairman of the committee.
All right. So the the recommendation is unanimous. I just for the record to correct would say that it's actually an $8,000 raise because the pay currently is $2,000, and what they're requesting is to raise it to $10,000. Out of the corner of my eye.
I just have comment.
All right, so you've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to deny. And now is there further discussion? Councilor Robbins.
Thank you, Mr. President. So like the councilor at large to my left, I am also a former school committee member. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody sitting here. And I will echo the comments of the Ward 2 councilor. I cannot tell you how many hours that I put in when I was a school committee member, not just going to events, but, you know, being part of multiple negotiations with the teachers and the secretaries, it is a lot of hours. I think, as has been mentioned previously, we don't know what the next budget season for the school department is going to look like. And those increases that we've seen from the Student Opportunity Act are going to get less and less and less. So while I sincerely agree that some sort of raise is needed, and while I respect a lot of the comments that were made today, I do think that, you know, with some incentive, you may see a larger pool of candidates running for office. I think going an $8,000 increase is a large increase. And my question would be, you know, are we as a city council able to amend this petition to something we're more comfortable with?
I would say the answer to that question is no. It's not our petition. Really, quite frankly, no one has spoken this evening on behalf of the petitioners. And if we amended, if they were here and were interested in an amendment, a character of what, you know, depending on what the amendment is, you can't amend a $10,000 request to a $2,500 request, or even a $3,000. The character of the petition would be so different that they'd have to start over again. So I think that hopefully that answers your question.
No, thank you for the clarification. So seeing that, I guess I would agree with the Ward 2 councilor in saying, like, I hope that they'll come back, because I think there are some really good aspects as well with tying this to the Consumer Price Index. I think that, you know, we should set something so that it takes care of itself in the future as well, because times have changed since this $2,000 was initiated as well. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Councilor Shalfo Zephyr?
Thank you very much. You know, I am inclined to support an increase in stipend for the school committee. Again, you know, going from 2,000 to 10,000 is a lot. I'm disappointed, honestly, because at the last meeting I asked if the business manager and superintendent may not be appropriate, and I understand that, but somebody from the school department, I think it's important for them to support this. And, you know, it's coming out of the school department budget. This year, all of the departments that I'm aware of did, in fact, have to cut their budgets by 4%. That was the directive from the mayor's office. So budgets, from my perspective, are only going to get tighter in the next 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years. I think especially in the school department. The ARPA money's going away, the Student Opportunity Act, which has been a tremendous help in, you know, eliminating some of the inequities and supporting various programs in the department. You know, that money has been a big help, but that also is going to get smaller and smaller as we, you know, kind of go through the years. So that's just, I'm concerned about the context, you know, over the next few years. I'm concerned that, you know, it would have been really helpful for me to hear from other people from, you know, the school committee and the school department supporting this, making the case, helping to make the case for it, because, you know, I'm not on the school committee, we're not on the school committee, so it's hard for me to, you know, take up that cause. You know, I want to be supportive, and I am supportive of some other number that I could feel comfortable with, given, you know, our budgetary constraints. So that's my comment. I guess, you know, we'll see if the school committee wants to rework this and bring it on back down. You know, we can't. I mean, I agree with the chair, with the council president. We can't amend this. It's the petitioner has to amend anything that's before us. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Councilor. And just for clarity, before I entertain more discussion, the 4% decrease in budgets were to the expense side of the budgets in the city, not the personnel side, just so the public knows. Councilor Frida, I think I saw your hand.
I pretty much agree with everyone else. $10,000 is definitely excessive, and the comment about aligning with other school committees, well, it depends on where you want to look. There are many school committees in the state that get no money for serving on a school committee. There are some, on an average, probably $4,000 or $5,000 a year. We can talk about Cambridge, but Cambridge City Council has secretaries in their own office for each councilor. So I mean, if you want to compare apples to apples, that's what you need to do. It bothers me, though, to listen to school committee members talk about their children are there now. When their children leave, they want to make sure there's adequate funding for people to be interested in that position. Maybe I'm old school, and I understand I served in the 80s on the school committee, and it was pre-ed reform, but the objective of serving on a school committee was purely because you cared about the education of the children in your community. It was not a money-making situation. It wasn't to go on the school committee for your own children. We had a perfect school committee when I was on. Mary Crowley was on. She had grandchildren in the system. Jane Duchesneau and I had children that were young in the system. Russ Wass was a financial person who had wasn't married. Ed Johnson was a teacher. It was a committee of different expertise that all were concerned about the education of the kids, not about how much money they were going to make by serving. We paid for advertising things. We did it as we were able. It shouldn't be about funding that position. If you want to give someone a stipend, as it was said early on when we did the 2000, to help with some babysitting for single mothers that might serve on the committee, or single fathers, that was a different outlook. But to talk about funding that position, that's not my perception of a school committee or a school committee member. It's a whole different position. It's not a salaried position. So I do not support the 10,000. I'll reconsider if they come back with something different, but I'm not support. I'll support the Legal Affairs Committee on this one.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor David Cormier.
Thank you very much. Let me just first start by saying everybody's time and work certainly has value. There's no question about that. And I was here when we put that stipend in 10 or 12 or so years ago. And it did start at 1,000. We worked it up to 2, and nobody at that time said that it was inefficient. And it just was what it was. I think everybody acknowledges that there are some expenses, and so we acknowledged that at the time as well. And I do think that a 400% increase is a bit much, especially somebody that sat here in 2017 and listened to speaker after speaker after speaker talk about how we need to spend more money in the classroom. And that's where this money's going to come out of, especially when ugly things start happening again, when budgets start getting tight and money starts drying up, which, everything works in a cycle. Good times don't last forever. And a lot of this money is going to start drying up. And if we're starting to look at here, we won't be cutting them. The school committee is going to have to make these decisions, but they all come down here and yell at us too when arts are on the chopping block and music is on the chopping block and all these things are on the chopping block, and this body is giving out 400% raises to school committee members. I can't do it. I mean, I've sat here through that in 2017. And if it gets that ugly again, this money should be spent in the classroom. That's where it belongs. That's what the voters at the time in 2017 told me, that we need to spend more money in the classroom. So I'm not going to vote for this.
Okay, Councilor Frida?
Did anyone else get an email from Kristen Howlett?
I did not.
I did not.
Do you want me to read that? She didn't ask to have it read into the record as Donna did.
Your discretion and whether you want.
She's a former school committee member, so. Claire, it's Kristen Howlett. I saw the $10,000 school committee item on the agenda. I have a license commission meeting tonight. I'll be upstairs. Don't think the time will work for me to be able to come down and speak. I'll run down if I can. I am all for a slight increase, but $10,000 is excessive. And that's almost $100,000 out of our kids' classrooms. Public servants run for public service, not to be paid $10,000. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councilor. Anything else? Councilor Robbins?
I also did receive something. I'll just read it into the record in
Sure.
fairness. It's from school committee member Melissa Bible, who is at a work thing that she's not able to be here tonight. Hello, as a current member and longtime advocate for staff and families in Leominster, I write for your support of the school committee petition requested. Since the time of the last increase, the cost of living has increased significantly. Our hope in drafting this petition was that members and those that choose to run would not be putting their families in the deficit in running for office. Members that currently serve members that currently serve or may want to work multiple jobs, pay for childcare, and have the cost of running a campaign. An increase provides equity to those that would like to serve, however, cannot due to loss of income. If members would like to donate their pay back to the community, that is always an option. I caution the City Council about slighting the value of our work to the community. You are sending a message of our value to the community. Sorry. At times of budget impasse, many of these same members have thrown their hands up and said, our hands are tied, it's the mayor's budget. This is a time where you can directly impact equity with our school district. It was during the heights of COVID, some of you reached out to us for reflection, for input and appreciation or value at a time when many of us were at direct threat. Please value the work we do, value the work of all elected officials in our community that are elected to serve, be the adults or the children. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Robbins. Is there any other commentary before we vote? Okay, seeing none, a yay vote denies the petition. A nay vote would be against the committee's recommendation. I'm going to do this by roll call, starting with Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Ardinger.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Tossi.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Robbins.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
And I'll be recorded as yay. The committee recommendation to deny 8-25 passes by a vote of 9-0. Moving on to 5-25, Councilor, we already have a public hearing established on our next meeting date, 9/23, but I would assume your recommendation would be for further time on 5-25?
You are correct, Mr. President.
I'll check with members of your committee, Councilor Tossi
Yes.
and Councilor Pauline Cormier.
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to give 5-25 further time, and in conjunction with the 9/23 public hearing already established. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of further time, please recognize the usual manner. 5-25 is given further time by a vote of 9-0. 7-25, Councilor Angelini, similar situation.
Indeed, we're pairing the two so that we can entertain them both that evening of the 23rd. And so my recommendation would be further time, and obviously I would ask you to check with members of my
Very
committee.
well. Councilor Tossi.
I agree.
Councilor Cormier.
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to give 7-25 further time. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, you recognize the usual manner. By a vote of 9-0, 7-25 is given further time. Moving on to public service and 2-25, is the chairman ready to report?
I am, Mr. President. 2-25, this is Massachusetts Electric Company, or National Grid, is looking for permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures along and across the following public way. Lancaster Street, National Grid to install one solely owned pole on Lancaster Street beginning at a point approximately 190 feet southeast of the center line of the intersection of Central Street and Lancaster Street. National Grid will be installing new pole 2-84 and guy to replace tree guy since the tree is being removed. This is a continued we continued the public hearing earlier this evening, and there was still some lively discussion regarding the tree. The abutter homeowner where the tree is indicated that he is willing to get an arborist to come look at the tree and give us a third-party opinion about its health. So seeing such, I'm going to request that we give this further time, continue the public hearing, and I'll ask that you check with the other members of the committee.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr?
I agree.
Councilor Frida?
I agree. I think it's commendable that a citizen is offering to pay to have someone look at a tree that belongs to the city. So,
All
yeah,
right,
I
so-
agree.
Very good. Counselor Robbins, I'm going to recommend September 23rd at 6:30 PM as the continued hearing date. So the recommendation would be for further time and to continue the public hearing to 9:23 at 6:30 PM. All in favor, please recognize usual manner. Anyone opposed, by a vote of 9-0, the petition has been given further time with a new public hearing date. Moving on to 3-25.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is National Grid once again. Pleasant Street, National Grid to install one solely owned pole on Pleasant Street beginning at a point approximately 66 feet south of the center line of the intersection of Pleasant Street and Pleasant Place. National Grid will be installing quadruplex to service 800A at 71 Pleasant Street, installing stub pole 8-84 to support the new quadruplex Wire Leominster Mass. Again, the public hearing was continued earlier this evening. The question that we had was on the requests or the requirements from the DPW. National Grid indicated tonight that they are able to meet those and have everything in the right of way. So seeing such, I recommend that we grant this petition, and I'll ask that you check with the other members of my committee.
Counselor Shalfo Zephyr?
You know, I will support this as long as the DPW, their two conditions are put into the approval.
Okay, so you want a conditional? Mr.
Conditional.
Chairman, is that okay?
Yes.
All right, so the recommendation is for a conditional approval adopting the two recommendations of the DPW.
Made by the DPW.
Okay,
Yep.
and Counselor Frida, you okay with that?
I agree with that.
All right, so the unanimous recommendation of the Public Service Committee is to grant 3-25 conditionally with the DPW conditions. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please recognize usual manner. Anyone opposed? That passes by a vote of 9-0. Moving on to new business, Mr. Chairman, first reading of an ordinance, formally 48-24.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, indeed. This is a first reading of an ordinance, formally petition 4824. City of Leominster, in the year 2024, an ordinance, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Article 3 of the zoning ordinance entitled Table of Uses is hereby amended by inserting the following sentence at the end of the first paragraph of said Article 3. Any use not listed in the underlying district's table of uses and/or the overlay district's table of uses is hereby prohibited. Mr. President, it would be my recommendation that we adopt the first reading of the ordinance, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Thank you. Counselor Tosse
I agree.
and Counselor Pauline Cormier.
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to grant the first reading of an ordinance, formally 48-24. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, this will be by roll call, starting with Counselor David Cormier.
Yay.
Counselor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Counselor Arndinger.
Yay.
Counselor Angelini.
Yay.
Counselor Tosse.
Yay.
Counselor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Counselor Robbins.
Yay.
Counselor Frida.
Yay.
And I shall be recorded as yay. The first reading is adopted by a vote of 9-0. Moving on to 6-25.
Thank you, Mr. President. Formally 6-25. First reading of an ordinance, the City of Leominster in the year 2024, an ordinance. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Amending Chapter 13 of the revised ordinances entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. Section 13-77 of the revised ordinances entitled Stop Signs is hereby amended by inserting the following. View Street against southeast bound drivers at Grandview Avenue. View Street against northwest bound drivers at Grandview Avenue. Mr. President, it would be my recommendation that we adopt the first reading of this ordinance, and I would ask you to check with members of my committee.
Counselor Tosse
I agree.
and Counselor Pauline Cormier.
I agree.
You've heard the unanimous recommendation of the Legal Affairs Committee to grant the first reading of an ordinance, formally 6-25. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, this will be by roll call. Counselor David Cormier.
Yay.
Counselor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Counselor Arndinger.
Yay.
Counselor Angelini.
Yay.
Counselor Tosse.
Yay.
Counselor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Counselor Robbins.
Yay.
Counselor Frida.
Yay.
And I'll be recorded as yay. The first reading of the ordinance is adopted by a vote of 9-0. Moving on to old business, in the second reading of an ordinance, is the chairman ready to report?
I am indeed. This is formally C-3, Mr. President. This is the second reading of an ordinance And again, before I begin, this entire rate schedule that's in the ordinance is available at the clerk's office for review. This deals with water and sewer rate schedule. In the year 2024, an ordinance amending Article 21 of the revised ordinances entitled Water and Sewer, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Leominster as follows. Chapter 21, Article 3, Section 21-22.3 of the revised ordinances entitled Sewer User Rate Schedule is hereby amended by deleting the provisions for metered rates within and outside the city and inserting in its place the following. And once again, we have the table. The second page shows one line item on the table. High-strength industrial use, high-strength industrial user is any user who discharges processed waste at strengths higher than normal domestic sewage, i.e. BOD at 250 milligrams per liter, TSS equals 300 milligrams per liter. In no case shall the sewage charge be less than $1 per 100 cubic feet discharged. A minimum of $75 per quarter per account shall be charged to those users who utilize sewer service only. Billing for such use shall be computed and mailed to users on the same form used for water rates. Billing and shall be due and payable on the same date and shall carry the same interest rate for late payments as specified in Section 21-11.2 of the revised ordinances. Mr. President, once again, it would be my recommendation that we adopt the second reading of this ordinance, and I would ask you to poll members of my committee.
Councilor Tosse.
I agree.
And Councilor Pauline Cormier.
I agree.
Any discussion? Seeing none, this will be by roll call. Councilor David Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Pauline Cormier.
Yay.
Councilor Ardinger.
Yay.
Councilor Angelini.
Yay.
Councilor Tosse.
Yay.
Councilor Shalfo Zephyr.
Yay.
Councilor Robbins.
Yay.
Councilor Frida.
Yay.
I'll be recorded as yay. The second reading of the ordinance is adopted by a vote of 9-0. Do we have any old business? Seeing none, how about anything for the community calendar? Councilor David Cormier.
Thank you, Mr. President. In case anybody around here doesn't get out much and hasn't seen all the signs around town, the Johnny Appleseed Festival is this Saturday. The weather is looking beautiful right here in downtown Leominster. I know there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of vendors, and it should be a good day. Looking forward to it. I believe it's 9 to 5, I
Correct.
think. And then also, given the fact that it's the 250th birthday of Johnny Appleseed, we have the parade on Sunday, which starts at 2 p.m. and moves through town, and that should be fun as well. So I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully we can get as many people out there as possible to have the community come together and celebrate something good. Thank you.
You're welcome. The parade route runs from Doyle Field to the center, if anybody's interested. There is a calendar, a physical calendar of activities that run from September the 12th through October the 12th. That calendar is available free of charge here in City Hall, also at the Historical Society and at the Johnny Apple Visitor Center out on Route 2. The first event that kicks off the Johnny Appleseed 250th anniversary is the release of a special commemorative coin, which will be sold for $10. It is the only thing in the entire celebration, series of celebrations that there's a charge for. It's $10. It'll be available at the mayor's office and at the visitor center starting on Thursday morning. I know there's been a lot of interest for this coin. I know people have been calling the mayor's office. I've gotten some calls. If by chance we run out, we can have more made, so I want to make sure that everybody gets one and that wants one. It may take a little while, but the interest seems to be pretty strong. The Historical Society is doing an event called 1774 in Context. Not only was Johnny Appleseed born that year on September 26th, but that's the year that they moved the common from the front of Pine Grove Cemetery 3/4 of the mile down the road to where it is today. Also in 1774, Obadiah Hills and family moved here from Newburyport and started the comb industry, of course, which kicked off the plastic industry in Leominster. And I don't have to tell anybody the importance of the plastic industry to this city. But that was another event that happened in 1774. So there'll be a exhibit and discussion at the Historical Society on the 19th of September at 7 p.m. Again, admission is free. There is a special stamp cancellation. We had envelopes made with the logo on the left side, and we have purchased a number of Johnny Appleseed stamps from 1966. By the way, the stamp rate back then was 5 cents. Today it's 73. And we will free of charge affix probably about 300 or 400 of those stamps to the envelopes, and the Postal Service will be here at the library on the birth date, September 26th, canceling those stamps with a special cancellation for Leominster. Those are free, one to a customer, but free. And that'll be from 11 to 2 p.m. at the public library. If you can't get here to physically get one of the calendars, all the events are listed on the city website. There are a bunch of other things. Notably, the library is holding a ball on October 5th, again, free of charge. They're having a big band come in. That was a big hit, donated by the Millette Family Trust. Again, free of charge to the public if you want to take that in. There are events at Sholin Farms on this 26th. Also, I believe the festival, the Harvest Festival, is the 12th, if I'm not mistaken, of October at Sholin Farms. So get the calendars. As Councilor Cormier said, should have a great weekend this weekend with the weather, and look forward to all of these events. Back in 1974, when I wasn't paying so much attention to this stuff, we celebrated the 200th anniversary of the birth of Johnny Appleseed with a lot of activities like this. And proud to say that the city of Leominster won the first National Bicentennial Award given by the federal government for what they put on back then. And remember that the bicentennial, which of course was in 1976, but the sort of uprise in the First Continental Congress began in 1774. So bicentennial activities back then actually started in 1974. So should be fun. If anybody has any questions, they can call me, they can call the mayor's office. I'm sure they can get the information if they need it. And unless anybody else has anything for the community calendar, Councilor Frida.
Yeah, just yesterday I was able to attend, I know we all got an invitation, up at the high school for the New England Honor Band that our kids are going to be involved in. It was celebration kickoff yesterday. The president of the Rose Bowl parade was actually there. He flew in the night before, as well as representative from the Student School Foundation that is supporting the kids in the bands. We have 20 of our students going. Fitchburg has 12, and there's, I think, Enfield, Connecticut, Marlborough. There are some other areas going as well. They kicked off yesterday. It was the kids were a little bit excited. I don't know that I would look excited for almost a 7-mile parade, but they're excited with they'll be leaving December 27th, and they'll be coming back January 2nd, but they will be marching with New England. They showed their first uniform yesterday, so they'll look like young patriots, which would be kind of neat. So I'm sure they'll be looking for a lot of help and financial support. It's been since 1963 that anybody from this area, Fitchburg, went. Fitchburg High School in 1963. That's the last time anybody from New England has been in the Rose Bowl parade in Pasadena. So I'll thank Jen Zumwalt who sent this to me today so that I could mention it tonight on helping the kids. She has a member going, and the families are all looking forward to going with their children as well. The mayor and I were both there, and the mayor was very clear that he was going to be in California supporting them. So I think if there's any sponsors or corporate sponsors in the community that would like to help them. I'm sure they'll probably be hearing from these kids in the school. Bob Bergeron, who is the musical director, was chosen. That's how the Leominster was host yesterday, because he's the assistant director of the band. He had the honor of being chosen as the assistant director. So he was there in the capacity as the assistant director yesterday, not the music director for the band. So they will all be working hard to come up with some finances. And so if anybody can help them out, support some of the programs that they'll be putting forward, we'll be sure that they notify us and let us know when they'll be having something, so that we can support their adventure going to California.
Thank you, Counselor. Keep us posted on fundraising events so we can let the public know as well. Fun fact, one of the greatest upsets in the Rose Bowl, last time the Rose Bowl was the only bowl game in college football. January 1st, 1934, Leominster native Lou Little coached Columbia to one of the biggest upsets in college football history. So another Leominster fun fact. Also, we should mention the football team off to a great start, beating St. John's. I think it was 29-7 last Friday night, so we all want to support them as well. I think that's going to be a good season. Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second, Councilor Cormier, all in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
The Leominster City Council meeting is funded in part by DeCarolis Insurance Agency at www.decarolisinsuranceagency.com and by Avidia Bank at www.avidiabank.com.